on Numbers chapter 19. This is a fascinating chapter about the red heifer. Let's take a look at the first two verses in Numbers chapter 19. Then Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, "This is the statute of the Torah which Yahweh has commanded, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel that they bring you an unblemished red heifer in which is no defect, and on which a yoke has never been placed." Okay, this is the ordinance about the red heifer sacrifice. And there are several particular items to make note of concerning this particular ordinance. It's, first of all, it's a heifer. Now, what does a heifer? Female cow. That's right.
Well, not yet a cow.
Yeah, right. One that hadn't had a calf anyway.
Right.
A heifer that has not had a calf. It's a female. And that's what's appointed for this sacrifice. This is in opposition to the Egyptian superstition, which held heifers sacred because they worshiped their goddess Isis under that form of being a heifer. Males only were chosen for Egyptian sacrifice. Now, Herodotus states that the Egyptians sacrificed males, both old and young, but it was not lawful in Egypt to offer females. And also, this was to be a red heifer. The Egyptians sacrificed red bulls to the evil demon Typhon. Also, this is to be without spot, and it can't have a mixture of any other color on it. It had to be totally red, and it had to be without blemish. And it says here, and on which a yoke has never been placed. That's very important. The reason here is because an animal which had been used for a common purpose, pulling a plow or whatever, was deemed improper for this sacrifice, which is very holy, very set apart for this one singular purpose. Verses 3 and 4. "And you shall give it to Eleazar the priest, and it shall be brought outside the camp and be slaughtered in his presence. Next, Eleazar the priest shall take some of its blood with his finger and sprinkle some of its blood toward the front of the tent of meeting 7 times. So the heifer is to be taken to the priest, and he's to take it outside the camp. Now, after that calf is slaughtered, he is to take the blood of that heifer and sprinkle it directly in front of the tabernacle. Now, rabbinical sources say that a red heifer has not been born in the land of Israel since the temple was destroyed in 70 AD.
They're looking.
Oh, they're always looking.
Oh, they're looking.
Yeah, you know that. According to oral traditions, when a red cow was required, one would just show up, okay? So you didn't have to go hunting for them. Well, it's good to see the Williamses. The last one was in the herd of a Gentile, actually, during the 1st century before the destruction of the temple. That's the last one. And as far as I know, there are 2 counts as to the number of red cows sacrificed. One says that there's been 9, another source says 7. We don't have a count on the number of these things that have been sacrificed or used for a sacrifice. Either way, it's a very rare sacrifice. Now, there have been a few red heifers that recently that were close but disqualified, and it's like Michael said, they're looking for that red heifer. There have been cow farmers in Texas, Mississippi, Sweden, Switzerland, and even New Jersey that wanted to export a red heifer into Israel. And it would appear that there's a lot of Christians and Jews that want to help, make this happen. Maybe they want to help Elohim's plan a little bit too much. When Elohim wants a red heifer to appear, where's he going to look? Oklahoma, they got a bunch of them over there. It's got to be a perfect one, without blemish and all totally red. You know what? I think it'll appear when he wants it to. That's what I think will happen. That's just me, but I don't think he needs any help. Got a lot of help going on out there, though. Verses 5 and 6. Then the heifer shall be burned in his sight. Its hide and its flesh and its blood with its refuse shall be burned. And the priest shall take cedar wood and hyssop and scarlet material and cast it into the midst of the burning heifer. So the hide, the flesh, the blood, even the fecal matter is going to be burned. Then the priest is going to take cedar wood, hyssop. Now, what's hyssop? Yeah, it's an aromatic herb. And it's going to take some scarlet material, and they're going to throw it in that fire. Verses 7 and 8, the priest shall then wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and afterward come into the camp. But the priest shall be unclean until evening. The one who burns it shall also wash his clothes in water and bathe his body in water, and shall be unclean until evening. The purpose of this whole thing is cleanliness. The priest and the one who burns the sacrifice, they're to wash themselves, they're to wash their clothes, they're unclean until evening. Verse 9. Now a man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and deposit them outside the camp in a clean place. And the congregation of the sons of Israel shall keep it as water to remove impurity. It is purification from sin. Excuse me. So someone who is clean is going to gather up the ashes of the red heifer and store them outside the camp in a clean place. This is to be used for the water of purification, for the purification from sin. And it's for all of Israel. This water is mixed with the ashes, and it's to be used for those who are defiled, those who are made unclean, and for the purpose of cleansing themselves. And this sacrifice is actually a beautiful picture of Yeshua and the sacrifice he made for his people. First of all, the offering is to be without spot. The writer of Hebrews speaks of the sacrifice of the red heifer being a picture of Messiah and being without blemish. That's in Hebrews 9, verses 13 and 14. For if the blood of goats and bulls and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling those who have been defiled, sanctify for the cleansing of the flesh, how much more will the blood of Messiah, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without blemish to Elohim, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim? Okay, he's to be without blemish. We read in verse 2, an unblemished red heifer in which there is no defect. We read in 1 Peter 1, starting at verse 18, knowing that you were not redeemed with perishable things like silver or gold from your futile way of life, inherited from your forefathers, but with precious blood as of a lamb unblemished and spotless, the blood of Messiah. And he's talking about that way of life there, handed down from our forefathers, which I thought was interesting. Also, he was to be taken outside of the camp to be killed. Yeshua was also taken outside the gates of the city to be killed. If you look at Numbers 19, verse 3, you shall give it to Eleazar the priest. It shall be brought outside the camp and be slaughtered in his presence. In the same way, Yeshua, we read in John 19, starting at verse 15, they therefore cried out, away with him, crucify him. Pilate said to them, shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, we have no king but Caesar. So we then delivered him to them to be crucified. They took Yeshua, therefore, and he went out, bearing his own stake, to the place called the place of the skull, which is called in Hebrew, Golgotha. And Paul, writing in Hebrews, also writes about that. In Hebrews 13, starting at verse 11, for the bodies of those animals whose blood is brought into the holy place by the high priest as an offering for sin are burned outside the camp. Therefore Yeshua also, that he might sanctify the people through his own blood, suffered outside the gate. Hence let us go out to him outside the camp, bearing his reproach. Now, a heifer, we talked about that, it's a female cow. How's that a picture of Yeshua? That's a good question, isn't it? You know, Yeshua was betrayed for how many pieces of silver? It was 30, wasn't it? That's the price of a female slave. In Leviticus 27, the first 4 verses, again, Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when a man makes a difficult vow, he shall be valued according to your valuation of persons belonging to Yahweh. If your valuation is of the male from 20 years old even to 60, then your valuation shall be 50 shekels of silver after the shekel of the sanctuary. Or if it's a female, then your valuation shall be 30 shekels of silver." You know, we're told it's not supposed to be a normal beast of burden. It's not supposed to be a cow that's pulled a plow. It's not supposed to be a cow that has had a yoke upon him. You know, in the same way, Yeshua did not bear the yoke of the man-made laws of the Pharisees. He said his yoke was his Father's will, and it's easy and it's light. In verse 2, it has to be on which a yoke has never been placed. And Yeshua said in Matthew 11, starting at verse 28, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. You shall find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my load is light." The blood of the heifer was for cleansing. Okay, it cleansed people who were unclean. In verses 11 and 12 of Numbers 19, we read, "The one who touches the corpse of any person shall be unclean for 7 days. That one shall purify himself from uncleanness with the water on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, and then he shall be clean. But if he does not purify himself on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, he shall not be clean." Well, in the same way, the blood of Yeshua is for our cleansing. We just read in Hebrews 9, verses 13 and 14. "For if the blood of goats and bulls and the ashes of the heifer sprinkling those who have been defiled sanctify for the cleansing of the flesh, how much more will the blood of Messiah, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without blemish to Elohim, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living Elohim?" And one other thing, the ashes of the red heifer, where were they supposed to be placed?
Clean.
In a clean place. Okay? In verse 9, "Now the man who is clean shall gather up the ashes of the heifer, deposit them outside the camp in a clean place." What does that mean, a clean place? Swept out really good? Nice and shiny? What's that mean?
Not defiled.
Unclean.
Not defiled with what?
Anything unclean.
Or anything unclean or dead.
Dead.
Specifically, it won't be where any dead things are. In the same way, where was the body of Messiah laid? In a rich man's tomb. How many people were buried there? There had never been anyone buried there. In Matthew 27, starting at verse 57, "And when it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had also become a disciple of Yeshua. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Yeshua. Then Pilate ordered it to be given over to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. And he rolled a large stone against the entrance of the tomb and went away." Look at how many ways this offering, the sacrifice of that red heifer, which is for the purification of sin, of uncleanness, put it that way, is just like the sacrifice of Messiah. It's an offering without spot. It's an offering without blemish, just like Messiah. It had to be taken outside the camp to be killed, just like Messiah was. It was a female cow. Yeshua was turned in. He was sold for the price of a female slave. It couldn't be a common beast of burden. Couldn't be one that's had a yoke. And Yeshua talks about how his yoke is very easy and it's very light. And the blood of the heifer was for the cleansing of people, just like his blood is for the cleansing of our sin. And the ashes of the red heifer were to be kept in a clean place, just like his body was, in a place that had never been used, and the dead body had never been there. Let's keep going here. in Numbers 19. Verse 10. And the one who gathers the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. It shall be a perpetual statute to the sons of Israel and to the alien who sojourns among them. The one who gathers the ashes, he's going to be unclean until evening. This is to be a statute forever to the children of Israel. It also applies to the stranger who dwells among them. Verse 11, the one who touches the corpse of any person shall be unclean for 7 days. So if someone touches a dead body of an animal, they're unclean for 1 day. If someone touches a dead person, they're unclean for 7 days. That's probably to show the impurity and sinfulness of man and how it's worse than even the vilest of animals. Because animals can't sin. Okay, you may watch, the lion attacking the wildebeest or whatever and feel bad, but that's not a sin. They can do that. That's what they do. Gotta eat, that's right. Well, instead of killing animals, why don't they drive through at McDonald's like the rest of us, so no animal has to die, right? Verse 12. That one shall purify himself from uncleanness with the water on the 3rd day and on the 7th day. Then he shall be clean. But if he does not purify himself on the 3rd day and on the 7th day, he shall not be clean. So, unclean people are to purify themselves on the 3rd day and the 7th day. Why on the 3rd day if you're going to be unclean for 7 days? Anyone have a guess? 3rd day has significance. What's that? Yeah, that's when Messiah resurrected. It has a resurrection, a renewing symbolism to it. We're cleansed through his death and through his resurrection from the dead. But okay, then why the 7th day?
That's when God rested.
That's when he rested. Also, what's 7 stand for? Completion, completeness. I think that's really the reason, although, it doesn't say. So it's kind of speculation either way.
He's clean whether he does or doesn't there after 7 days.
Yeah, you got to do it. So you got to do it. You touch a dead body, that's what you have to do. Because we read in verse 13 here, anyone who touches a corpse, the body of a man who has died, and does not purify himself, defiles the tabernacle of Yahweh, and that person shall be cut off from Israel. Because the water, for impurity was not sprinkled on him, and shall be unclean, his uncleanness is still on him. So unclean men are to purify themselves on the 3rd day and again on the 7th day. It's a command. Yeah.
Say, for example, he does it on the 3rd, but he does it on the 7th. Does he do it and then count from there as that being the 3rd day? 7?
That's how I see it.
Okay. It's not like if he misses it, he's a goner, that he's kicked, outside the camp. But he once he starts the process of becoming clean,
Yeah.
he has to complete, or else start that process of clean.
I guess start the process over. I don't know that we have an exemption here. All we know is this whole thing is not optional. Yeah.
How do you purify yourself now? When you touch the dead?
Okay, that's a good question. Now, what does it defile if you don't do that? What does it say it defiles? It's in that verse. The tabernacle or temple, which doesn't exist right now. So your question, while being a good one, it's irrelevant. Because that's what gets defiled, is the tabernacle or the temple. When we get together and meet, and a lot of people have the idea that Jews have temples everywhere. No, they don't. They have synagogues everywhere. They're places of learning, and that's it. And people say, at churches, they say, this is God's house. No, it's not. Okay? It's not God's house. He doesn't stay in a building. Now, granted, his presence was there in the tabernacle and again in the temple, and it was visible, but he's still on the throne. He's not contained or any such thing. But this was not optional, this cleansing thing. It's not optional for purification. It's necessary for the person to be cleansed in order to be a part of Elohim's people and to be a part of the worship of the Father. It's not optional. When you're in an unclean state, you can't be in the Father's presence. Okay? You just can't be. It won't happen. That's why Paul said this mortality will have to take on immortality, because this mortality is not clean. It's not clean. That's why, you remember when we were in Leviticus studying the offerings, there's a sin offering, then there's a guilt offering. What's the difference? Well, there is a difference. When there's a sin that takes place, okay, unintentional sin, there's a price to pay, right? It's like if I back into Tom's truck in the parking lot, and Tom says, "Okay, hey, it's okay. It's okay, don't worry about it." I say, "Okay, I won't worry about it. Thanks, Tom," and I'm gone, right? No, Tom will hunt me down. Tom's truck's got to get fixed, right? And it's got to get paid for. Well, there's a price to pay for your iniquities. But just because we sin and we pay that price for the sin, the unintentional sin, you're in a state of uncleanliness. Sin leaves a stain on you and me. It's there. There's still a guilt offering that has to be paid, a cleansing offering that has to be done. It's not optional. See, sin is, we don't take that sin thing very seriously, or like we should anyway. It's very serious. That's what the good thing about those offerings was. You got to see what sin does and how Elohim sees it. How it is now? Well, sin, that was sin on my part. Oh, yeah, I was a silly young guy yesterday. And it was not, it's not the way to look at it, okay? It's very serious stuff. We'll come back to that here shortly. This cleansing thing is not optional. Verse 14. This is the Torah when a man dies in a tent. Everyone who comes into the tent and everyone who's in the tent shall be unclean for 7 days. And every open vessel which has no covering tied down on it shall be unclean. Also, anyone who's in the open field touches one who has been slain with a sword, or who has died naturally, or a human bone or a grave, shall be unclean for 7 days. See, just because someone becomes unclean, it's not necessarily their own fault. It's not because they did something wrong.
So you shouldn't go to funerals?
No, you can go to funerals. You know, just because someone becomes unclean, that doesn't make it a sin for someone to be unclean, necessarily. Oftentimes, sin causes uncleanliness, and worse. But just because someone is unclean, someone's got to bury the people. Someone has to do that. But until they're cleansed, they can't approach Elohim or be a part of the assembly of his people at the tabernacle or the temple until this is addressed. It's very important. And also, if you're unclean during that time too, you can't participate in Passover. Remember, that's why we allow Passover to go 30 days later. It's for these people who were in that unclean state during Passover and couldn't approach. But Passover is too important. It's too good for man to miss totally for that reason.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
Does that mean, what does it mean not to come in contact with a dead person? Does that mean you don't touch them?
Well, actually, if you're in the same room with them, you're also declared.
Yeah, that's what he just read.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and, graves are another thing. They're included there too. And so, yeah. So, but this isn't, once again, it's not a sin. It's not a matter of sin. It's a matter of being in that unclean state that has to be dealt with before being at the temple or tabernacle, which we don't have right now.
The Nazarite, on the other hand, can't.
The Nazarite can't at all.
Or go to a funeral.
Right.
Or around a dead person.
Right. Nazarite can't do it. Very good.
Or go to the cemetery.
Or go to a cemetery, right? Right.
No.
Not an Nazarite.
Not a Nazarite. Verse 17. Then for the unclean person they shall take some of the ashes of the burnt purification from sin, and flowing water shall be added to them in a vessel. And a clean person shall take hyssop and dip it in the water, and sprinkle it on the tent, and on all the furnishings, and on the persons who were there, and on the one who touched the bone, or the one slain, or the one dying naturally, or the grave. Then the clean person shall sprinkle on the unclean on the third day and on the seventh day. And on the seventh day he shall purify him from uncleanness. He shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and shall be clean by evening. Okay, people at times could not help but be defiled on occasion. It happens. And someone has to deal with dead bodies within the camp, within the nation. Therefore, the water was always available, and any undefiled person, not just a priest, could sprinkle it on the one who's defiled. So you see, there's no excuse for not doing this. And this ritual, it pictures the cleansing power of the blood of Messiah. In 1 John 1, verses 7 through 9, we read, But if we walk in the light as he himself is in the light, we have fellowship with one another, and the blood of Yeshua his son cleanses us from all sin. If we say we have no sin, we're deceiving ourselves, and the truth is not in us. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and righteous to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Numbers 19, verse 20. But the man who's unclean and does not purify himself from uncleanness, that person shall be cut off from the midst of the assembly. Because he's defiled the sanctuary of Yahweh, the water for impurity has not been sprinkled on him. He's unclean. You know, you could look at this in the same way. Those who reject Yeshua as Messiah can never be cleansed. The cleansing is not there. And if they do that, it's just a matter of not being chosen. Ears are shut, eyes are shut, heart is stone. But that purification is not optional through the blood of Messiah. It's not optional. It's necessary. It's important. These cleansing of the ashes of the red heifer is a picture of the blood of Messiah. It's necessary for someone to approach Yahweh. Verses 21 and 22. So it shall be a perpetual statute for them. And he who sprinkles the water for impurity shall wash his clothes. He who touches the water for impurity shall be unclean until evening. Furthermore, anything that the unclean person touches shall be unclean, and the person who touches it shall be unclean until evening. It's a perpetual statute. It's forever. Our uncleanness does not just go away. It's a condition. It has to be dealt with totally. It has to be dealt with legally. It points to the return of Messiah in glory, and when he returns in judgment to restore his people. We read in Isaiah 52, starting at verse 13. Behold, my servant will prosper. He'll be high and lifted up and greatly exalted. Just as many were astonished at you, my people, so his appearance was marred more than any man, and his form more than the sons of men. Thus he will sprinkle many nations. Why do you think it says that? It's a cleansing, like of the ashes of the red heifer, like the blood of Messiah. These things were given to us to demonstrate what Messiah did and what it means. Kings will shut their mouths on account of him. For what they had not been told them, they will see. And what they had not heard, they will understand. That's not the only place. It's in other places in Scripture. In Ezekiel 36, the famous New Covenant passage. For I'll take you from the nations, gather you from the lands, and bring you into your own land. He's doing that right now as we speak. He's doing that right now. Then I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you'll be clean. What's he referring to? That's the breath of the Father, his Spirit. It's symbolized by the ashes of the red heifer. I'll cleanse you from all your filthiness and from all your idols. See, and he's just sprinkled that on some now. He's going to sprinkle more. Moreover, I'll give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you, and I'll remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. And I'll put my spirit, my breath within you, and cause you to walk in my statutes. You will be careful to observe my ordinances. The red heifer sacrifice cleanses the tabernacle of Elohim and cleanses those who are unclean. Any questions? Any thoughts on the red heifer sacrifice? That's an important passage.
I was curious about the 3 days that you'd have to cleanse it in 7 days. I was wondering, because we know now that he rose on the third day, so that represents the resurrection. But the scribes, the ancient scribes and the rabbis, they always provided commentary and thought around the scriptures. I'm sure they got the 7 day part right with completion and wholeness.
Right.
I wonder what they taught about the reason for 3 days.
I can look it up because I have the Jewish commentary, Jewish Publication Society commentary on the Torah.
I wonder if they saw something. I wonder if there's any hints in.
I don't think so because I didn't put it in my notes. I don't think there was anything earth-shattering.
Yeah,
But I'll take a look again.
I was just curious.
Yeah, I'll remember to do that before next time. Yeah, that's a good question. Anybody else?